Hey guys, folks over at Trustfire reached out to me, asked if I would take a look at this T70 flashlight for them. If you've watched my channel for any length of time, you know that I love flashlights, so I'm always willing to look at high quality flashlights. But I figure we do a quick unboxing. We'll go over all the features and specifications. I'll show you like the user interface. We'll get some beam shots and then get some thoughts on it. So they obviously send this light in a hard case. Feels like a pretty solid case. So we can see the light has a max output of 2300 lumens. The range or the throw, the distance is 1,000 meters. What is that? 250,000 candela. IPX8 waterproof rating. Max runtime of 112 hours. Drop tested at 1 meter. Let's see. Looks like these are some of the features. We'll probably go over all this plus more, but looks like it's got a battery indicator. It's built pretty well. Temperature control that prevents it from getting too hot, and a bunch of accessories. But let's get into it. All right. So here's everything that we get. Up on top, there's a manual, a couple extra O-rings. Looks like we have a 2-bay battery charger, and this is probably the cable. So you're going to need some type of USB source, whether it's a computer or a brick or whatever. I don't see that included in there. We got a little Velcro strap. That is going to be to hold our pressure switch. So yes, this is pressure switch capable, meaning this is a hunting flashlight, and we'll go over that. But this would hold that cable up against like the rail of your rifle or whatever. We have a mount here for the flashlight. There's some machining right there. If you can see that, there's a little nick. I might have to take some sandpaper and kind of knock that down, or a Dremel or something, because it's actually kind of sharp. And then there's actually some machining right there too. Not a huge deal, but obviously this is brand new, so I don't like seeing that, but it is branded, at least with their stuff on it. Looks like that's about it, other than we got the flashlight here, and there's a lanyard with it. I assume there's got to be batteries in here because there was the charger. So let's get that open up real quick. And there's a little cover, maybe not. The whole battery is wrapped, so we'll have to undo that. So yeah, we got 2 batteries with that as well. And just in case anyone's wondering, those are square cut threads. Basically no grease on them at all. And there is some machining kind of imperfections right there too, but really dry. You can hear that. So before we start going into all the details, I just kind of want to get some up close here of the light itself. It does look like we have 2 switches. There's a rubber switch here and a side switch here. One of the things I can see that I don't like already is that the body does not line up with the switch. In my opinion, this Trustfire should be right along here. And before I just started this section, I actually unscrewed it and tried screwing it in different ways, and it always lines up right there. So I don't care for how that looks. Like, it just seems like it should be right there. But again, that's a minor detail. Got a little nick right there. So you can see a very deep reflector, single LED. That's how they're able to get so much throw. Again, 1,000 meters out of this guy. A little bit of knurling up around the head there. Got a little bit of heat sinking up there by the head. Got some texturing on the body. And again, a little bit of knurling there for the tail cap. Overall, I do like how it looks, just not that. Do want to quickly show you guys the manual. You can pause at any point if there's something that you really want to read. I'm sure there's going to be things on this manual that I'm going to leave out. So this will be a reference point for you. Grab you guys some unofficial measurements here. Length, we're probably about 9.5, somewhere close to that. The tube diameter is about 1 inch. Head diameter is about 2.5 inches. And a weight by itself is 11.4. And with the 2 batteries that you're going to need, close to 15 ounces. 14.9 is what I'm getting. All right, let's go over the user interface of the T70, and it's pretty simple, which I actually appreciate and like that. So you have the rear tail switch, and that's going to give you either momentary or constant. In the momentary, it's completely silent basically. So I'm going to just have to press this, and you'll see the light come on down here. In order to actually turn the light on, it is not silent. So there's a pretty audible click. And I know this is saying it's a tactical flashlight, but with that type of switch, it's not. And then when you want to change your outputs, the side switch definitely is not tactical. It's very, very loud. But I think just because it has the rear tail switch, they consider that to be tactical. Now what you can do is you can have to press this so you don't actually fully turn it on. And then from here, you can go through the different brightness settings. Or the way it's really meant to be is you turn it on down here, and then you go up through the brightness settings. So we have basically 4. We have low, medium, high, and then like a turbo mode. And then it just cycles back through those 4. The low is 35 lumens and will go for 112 hours on full fresh batteries. The medium is 190 lumens and will go for 26 hours. The high mode is 600 lumens and goes for about 4.5 hours. And the turbo mode is at 2300 and it'll go for about 100 minutes total. I'll check this out later. I'm sure there has to be some type of step downs, but it doesn't show that in the manual. I doubt that it maintains the full 2300 lumens for the whole 100 minutes, but it might. They're also claiming that it has an SOS mode, and basically it says the light has to be on, and then you hold the side or the next switch for 1.5 seconds. There's going to be some flashing coming up here, so if you're sensitive to that, look away. But this is not an SOS. That's more just like a flash or almost like a strobe, but definitely not an SOS beacon. A couple other things I want to tell you about is that it does have a battery indicator built in here. So I'm going to turn it on here. It's kind of hard to see, but you see those green lights right there? So green basically means that our batteries are pretty much fully charged. If we would have turned it on and it was yellow, we're somewhere between like 80 and 40%. If we would have been red, it means we're somewhere between 40 and 10%. And if we turn it on and it's flashing red, it means we're under 10%, and we need to get the batteries recharged. And another feature that the T70 has is mode memory. So let's say I turn it on, and let's say I want to be in the medium mode. And then I shut it off, and then an hour later or the next day, I turn it back on. I should be in that same medium mode. So then we would have high, turbo, back to low. So I was in that medium. And they obviously included those 2 18650 batteries. It looks like they do make like a long battery that can be used in this as well. And then you can also use just regular 18650s, but they caution you on it. But you are not allowed to use CR123As. And the voltage of those 4 stacked batteries like that would be too much for this flashlight. I want to quickly show you guys the pressure switch. I mean, you basically just unscrew the regular tail switch and put that one on. But there are 2 modes to it, and this is completely silent when you have this on. So like the outside of it is for a constant on. You still can't change the modes or the brightness from this. You would still have to go to the side switch if you want to go through the different brightnesses. And then to turn it off, you just hit the outside again, so it's completely silent. And then it does have momentary in this mode as well. And it's just on the inside, you just press and hold. And then when you're done, you just release. And again, you could put that in like, one of the brighter settings, and then when you press that, it's going to be that real bright. But again, you cannot change the outputs. I do want to quickly show you guys this flashlight mount because I have never seen one quite like this, and I'm not exactly sure how well it's going to work or not. So it has these two magnets in here, and instead of mounting to a Picatinny section or an M-LOK section, these magnets basically mount right directly to your barrel, and it is super, super solid. That flashlight is not going to move once it gets on here. I guess my only concern is the amount of weight that it adds when it gets further out away. So I'm going to try to bring this back as close to my handguard back here that I can. But this thing weighs quite a bit, and once you get out here, it might be too much bringing down the end of my barrel, but I'll see. So there were a few of these little pieces in the box when I opened it. I really didn't know what they went to. And now that I've got this on here, they have to go to this mount because I have this thing all the way tight, and this is obviously, it doesn't do anything. So I probably have to put those little pieces somewhere in here to kind of tighten this down. In my opinion, if I have to use these here, they should have just already had this ready to go to fit their flashlight. So I end up putting just one of those in there, and I think you get 6 total. So those things probably come loose over time, and that's why they give you extras. So I tried putting just one of those little pads in there, and I can still move this around, so I'm going to have to try to use a second one. So I'm not a big fan of how this is set up like this, but I have 2 of those in there now. I'll try to get the flashlight back in here. And then once I get it closed, I'm probably going to leave it clamped for a little bit to allow the adhesive on these to really set in here. So that's not going to work with the 2 in there. It's probably designed for just 1. With the 2, it's too thick, and I cannot get that to line back up. So I cannot get that screw back into it. You can see it, that screw only goes in the bottom there, and I cannot push that down far enough. So it's designed to only work with 1. They give you 5 extras, but 1 is too loose. So I have some pieces of rubber off of some old bike mounts, like bicycle light and reflector mounts. I'm going to cut a piece down, put it on there, and I think it's thinner than 2 pieces of that, so maybe this will work. So that's the Trustfire piece. That's the piece I just cut. So let's check it out. That did not work either. I cannot get that tight enough to get that in there. So a little bit frustrating that it's loose with just 1, too tight with 2. So I'm going to have to run it with just that single piece in there, a little piece of rubber. I have this thing as tight as it'll go, even with the screwdriver. But just know that it still turns and it will still move in that mount. So the T70 is not really designed to use inside a house, but I still want to show you guys what the beam looks like on the wall here, just so you can get an idea. There actually is quite a bit of spill to it, even though there's that hot spot, and then you see the second kind of ring around that. You can see it's actually illuminating the entire room here, and that's on the lowest setting. And so that's the medium setting. You can kind of see from like wall to curtain, the wall on your right, curtains on the left. That's kind of the high setting. And so it does have a pretty nice flood to it as well. And we'll see what it all looks like when we get outside here. And then this will be the turbo setting there. Just look how giant that hotspot is. All right, outside here with the Trustfire. I'm probably 80 feet or so away from this tree. I don't know how well it'll show up with the iPhone here, but I'm gonna start off in the low. Kind of see that beam right there on it. All right. Now we're gonna go up through the different modes here. Again, that's low. Medium is a nice bump up already. That's a very impressive beam. That's the high, and then that's the turbo. That's pretty crazy. These trees here are several hundred feet away. I mean, that's probably 300 feet there. Those are over 400 feet down there. Well over 500 feet to the end of those. I want to show you guys this Trustfire up into one of the trees, and this is even with the light on down here. I mean, that is just crazy. Look at that beam. Well, hopefully seeing those beam shots gives you some idea of the capabilities of this Trustfire T70. So after having and using this light for about a month now, I'm going to give you guys some of my thoughts and opinions on it. First thing I'll say is that it does seem to be of pretty good build quality. I hate that that does not line up with that, like I mentioned earlier. And I have unscrewed this and rescrewed it probably 15 or 20 times, thinking that maybe like the threads might be different, but that's just the way that one is. And if you look on the website, you can see that that clearly lines up the way that it's supposed to. But overall, I think they use pretty high quality components in their builds. The beam throw on this is absolutely insane. It throws probably further than almost any other light that I've ever had. And it's got a usable spill as well, so there is some flood with it. I like that it's a really easy operation. I mean, it's literally just click it on, click it off if that's all you want to do. And if you want to change the outputs, it's just simply going through that. So I really like that about it. Another thing I like, I showed earlier how that battery indicator comes on. That actually stays on the entire time that the light is on. And it makes it super easy finding that switch in the dark. Another thing I like about it is that you can use your own 18650 batteries. So even though my kit included a couple, right now I have some Samsung 30Qs in there, and it works perfectly fine as long as you use button tops. They have to be button tops. If you try using flat tops, it will not work. A couple quick things that I did not care for. Again, that body alignment, didn't like that. This flashlight mount I showed, I tried multiple different types of pieces of rubber, and I just couldn't get this to work right. It's a little bit too loose. The body kind of slides around. The other thing is, I personally would not like running something on my barrel itself. I just feel like it's kind of going to set you up to like maybe not have the most consistent accuracy. So I think if I were running it on a rifle, I would just get just a standard flashlight mount, either for Picatinny or M-Lock or whatever, and use something like this versus the one that mounts the barrel. And my next little con has to do with the pressure switch, and not the switch itself, because it actually does work well, but it's with the piece of Velcro that they include to mount it. So this will not even reach around my handguard. Like there's no, I can't even fit it through there. And even if it were long enough, this kind like this, you could see how that would basically still stick out. And then if you went, part way across it, then you're going to be like basically losing half of the switch. They probably need to include like a mounting plate that can go in your M-Lock sections or on a Picatinny section or something like that. And my final little complaint with it is that in the manual it claims that it has SOS, but when you do it, it's basically just a strobe, not a true SOS. So overall, I do think it's a pretty amazing light with incredible performance. And could you use it for hunting? Yeah, absolutely. I think you could easily identify an animal that might be 200 or 300 yards away easily. But I also think that a lot of guys who are hunting are using like infrared scopes, and therefore you need an infrared flashlight, or they're using thermal scopes. I do think this would be perfect for somebody who's in to search and rescue. I think it'd be good for law enforcement or firefighters. I even think like ranchers or farmers, and obviously anybody who's into flashlights. This would be a nice little addition to your collection. So the folks at Trustfire have provided me a discount code. I'll put it up on the screen here, and I'll also put it down in the video description, where there will also be a link down there. So the kit that I have that has the pressure switch, it comes with the battery charger, the batteries, the flashlight mount, all that kind of stuff, comes in at $115, but they've given me a 20% discount code, which brings it down to $92. There's also a couple other options available. Like if you don't want the flashlight mount and you don't want the pressure switch, you can get the other stuff, and it's $100, but the 20% discount code brings it down to $80. And then there's another one that basically does not include any batteries. It doesn't include the charger, and it's 20% off is $64 on that one. That's probably the one that I would really recommend going. If you've already got button top 18650s, this is the one probably to go with, because I do think it's an absolutely fantastic light, especially at $64. So all right guys, like I mentioned, I'll leave a link, discount code down in the video description. If you found this video helpful, informative in any way, please give me a thumbs up, consider subscribing. And if you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. That's going to be it on this one. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it.